to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
I'm me. I'm Rob. Let's get the show on the road because Drew is late.
Whoa. This was you this time. Okay. Let's be honest here. 25% of the time it's me. 75% it's you.
25% of the time, 100% of the time it's you, Drew.
Whoa, pull.
That math checks.
If I am the one who is always late, just say it. Just go ahead and say it. If you don't say anything, then obviously you agree with me.
I'll see you're not.
I didn't realize you could unmute yourself. Anyway, if I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong.
I was about to put it in the chat.
So, guys, we got a lot to go over here today because we got 3 training camp practices since our last episode. We have somebody came off the injury list. Somebody got signed. We got a brandy new New York Giant. And
Brandy speaking new.
Someone got let go. Someone got told bye-bye.
We got the new car smell
Bye-bye.
and the old car smell. Goodbye.
Yeah. Wasn't even that old. We had it for a couple months.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we had buyer's remorse.
I'm in law.
Yeah, so let's get right into it, guys. So first off, we got the practice report from this past Friday. That's the 26th there. And first off, I got to put that back up. I love that face of Nacho right there. For those who are only on the audio version, you're missing it out because Nacho there on the right-hand side, that guy's just hilarious. But
ready to go.
Here we go. So now I always want to give credit where credit is due. So obviously, again, Rob and I are not able to go to these. We have work and crazy lives and all. So we're going based off of, in this case here today, all 3 reports will be based on the observations from John Schmeelk, on Giants.com. So first off, the battle between Deonte Banks and Malik Nabers continues, each of them getting their victories. But guys, that's a fun battle to watch. If any of you guys are lucky enough to live in the area and go to, Giants camp, definitely enjoy that battle. There are 2 battles specifically that are just a ton of fun to watch. It's the Malik Nabers, Deonte Banks one, and it's the Andrew Thomas and Brian Burns one.
Yes.
I love watching videos of both. I got to say, I enjoy the Thomas and Burns one probably a little more because I feel like Nabers is definitely getting the better of Banks more often, whereas Nabers and Burns is kind of 50-50. That's really, 2 guys at the top of their game going at it. It's a lot of fun to watch. We also go. We got a turbo sighting. Do it, Rob. I know you're doing. Yeah, you're gonna do
turbo it. Time.
Dante Turbo Miller, who y'all know we are huge fans of because of the backstory with him there, caught 2 touchdowns at the practice. Daniel Jones also threw a nice pass to Jalin Hyatt in the way that he saved him basically getting hit by Bobby Okereke. So basically, had he hit him in stride, he would have basically knocked right into Bobby Okereke. But because he hit him a little behind, it kind of rerouted Hyatt and kind of stopped him getting a huge hit. That's a veteran move. Good to see him get that kind of stuff going. That's the thing a receiver sees later on and respects. They don't necessarily notice it right then and there because they're in game speed. You can't tell you're about to go into a 240-pound linebacker. But when you're 180 pounds, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. So Drew Lock also threw a nice deep ball to Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who you're hearing a lot of good things about more and more as the camp progresses, by the way, I should say, too, as well. So interesting because there are people out there who love this kid and think he would have flat out made the roster last year had he not get hurt. I think it's a tougher time making that roster this year than it was last year because of the addition of Nabers, the addition of Isaiah McKenzie, guys like that. I think this is a much more difficult, spot to go into there. But I like the fact that you're seeing him still doing good because at the very worst, guys, he's still young. He can still be a guy you pop on the practice squad, and I don't know if there's all the hype around him where somebody would pick him up, but if they do, great for him. He gets an NFL job. But if he doesn't, not a bad guy to have there. Kayvon Thibodeaux had what would have been 2 sacks, including a strip fumble on Jones. So again, like most things training camp OTA wise, great. He looked good. Bad. Someone else didn't.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, exactly.
Training camp.
Boogie Basham batted down a pass as well. You're gonna hear a lot more on Boogie Basham this training season. I feel like I don't want to, between the OTAs and training camp, the training season, so to speak. There, I don't know if Giants trying to hype him up or if he's just something starting to click in his defense a little bit. Keep on a different defense. Sometimes you see that kind of stuff where guys go into a specific defense, they're just kind of catering to it, and they just tend to click with it. So DJ Davidson also had a nice run stop there. Elijay Riley would have been a sack on a corner blitz there. They went and did a 2-minute drill. The 2-minute drill, the offense needed just 3 plays to score on defense. On the defense, I should say. A deep sideline throw down to Nabers, a pass to Hyatt, and then a run into the end zone by Daniel Jones. Again, good and bad. Offense looked good, means defense looked bad.
Especially when your quarterback has a bum leg.
Yeah, he's running into the end zone. But second and third team defenses won theirs 2-minute drills against their corresponding offenses. And the big one here, because we're kind of keeping an eye on this here as things start off here, Jermain Eluemunor was closer to being fully back from his bruised ribs. He was in team drills and split time with Josh Ezeudu at right tackle. Remember the prior practice, they let him do walkthroughs and stuff like that. They didn't have him in the live drills. They just didn't want to risk him getting hurt even worse. So good to see him continue to come back from his health-ish scare that people had. But again, we remind you guys, don't be afraid. Things will happen. Wait till big news happens. Yeah. Worry. Don't let the media scare you. Let's get into happy news. Speaking of which, another thing of news. This is a piece of news that scared the bejesus out of a lot of people, to put it nicely. And this is the fact that a rookie got hurt before camp even started. And that's Theo Johnson. And he was placed on the PUP list there, like I said, right before training camp even started, right as the rookies were starting to come in. Had a hip injury, but we said probably be a quick turnaround time. And guess what, guys?
Turn around, coming off the PUP.
Your hips get healed really quick, and you come back to training camp.
Turn around, take you right off that PUP list.
It's like this, but this is why I see what I said a minute ago about Jermain Eluemunor. Don't freak out when injuries happen. Freak out when big injuries happens. You got 200 to 300 pound people running at each other full speed. Injuries are going to happen, guys.
Yeah, anyone that trains sports, that the majority of your injuries are going to happen in practice, and like a lot of them are going to be mild, where you're going to miss a couple of days, but you'll be there for the game.
Yeah,
and so we're talking a ways away.
And he passed his physical on Sunday, so he's fully good to go. And keep in mind, again, they might have not even put him on a PUP list if it was, if it was an injury list during the season. Like the minor injuries in the beginning of the training camp and the offseason and all, you don't want to get him hurt all year long on it. You want to give him a chance to heal up while you still can. So, like I said, no worries. Glad to see him back. Glad to see he's fully healthy. I'm expecting some decent things out of him this year. I think him and Bellinger are going to be a nice little 1-2 punch for us there at tight end. So,
oh yeah.
Let's get into the sad news.
The
one who's leaving us. All boarding for Air Canada. Nathan Rourke, Air Canada himself, has been released. And again, he's lasted a couple months with us, and that's all. I got to say, I never expected the comments that we were getting when we first talked about the fact that he came to the Giants. And these people out of the woodwork were so excited for this kid. He's going to do great things. The Jaguars never gave him a shot. This team never gave him a shot. That team never got him a shot. And I was like, okay, listen, I'll be glad to be wrong, but I don't see this. I don't see it. That's what we said at the time. And I still would have been glad to be wrong, but I still don't see it, guys.
Oh, apparently Dable and Shane also didn't see it either.
Well, nor the Jaguars or the Patriots.
Yeah.
So, listen, some people, for whatever reason, and I don't pretend to know the rhyme or reason between why it works the way it works sometimes, they work well in other leagues like the CFL. They come to the NFL, it just doesn't work. for whatever reason that is. Not every quarterback that wins an MVP comes to the NFL and becomes the next Warren Moon. Like, he was a very special player with circumstances way outside of abilities that had to cause him to go to the CFL. Let's be honest. That was totally, society and the culture at the time thinking because he was a black guy he couldn't play quarterback. Let's call what it is. That's not the issue with Nathan Rourke. He's an athletic guy who's just not quite good enough to play in the NFL. And that's what it boils.
Yeah, and it's not to knock him down. It's just there's a big difference between just all you guys out there, high school sports guys. Like, there's a big difference between JV and varsity, and sometimes it's just a little difference that puts you up on the varsity squad and not the JV. Well, that's kind of like what it is when you're talking about CFL and the NFL, because the NFL is the elite of football, sir.
It's also like, how many times you see guys excel in college and they suck in the NFL?
It's the next level.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
CFL is kind of a halfway stepping point to that. It's not quite as good as the NFL, obviously, but it's better than college competition. So, listen, if he can go there and he make a nice living and make himself MVPs and maybe win a championship or two, I forget what the name they call the cup there. It's the Grey Cup, I think they call it there.
We'll just call it the Maple Leaf Cup.
I don't know. It's something. I think it's called the Grey Cup. Whatever the Hufflepuffs and all those people are.
Maple Syrup Cup.
Slytherins and all that people are a little Quidditch. But I mean, you can still make a decent living. You can still, be a hero to whatever town you play in Canada, and he's from Canada. So
look at him.
It's going back to the homeland at that point, okay? Like, I'm sure they'll show like some kind of like maple syrup parade to celebrate this. Because he had said if he didn't make it with the Giants, he'd probably go back to the CFL. Just so you guys are aware. I'm not just like saying his NFL career is over. I'm going based on the assumption of what he said. Plus, I'm sorry, when 10% of the NFL teams have already told you you're not good enough, you're probably not good enough.
Especially like the teams that he played on.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens. And you know what the most ironic thing is, though, in this whole thing?
Is it ironic? I think
a little too ironic. Yeah, I really do think. But he got booted because Theo Johnson came off the PUP list. Theo Johnson is also Canadian. There's not many Canadian players.
Man. Canadian hate crime.
I mean, what is that all about?
They're not kickers.
But you don't hear about that very often, like Canadian. And you don't even hear the fact that he was from Canada. I mean, he was, I believe, born in Winnipeg, but grew up in Ontario. Which for those people who don't know, Winnipeg's Manitoba towards the west side. Ontario is where Toronto and that area is kind of the most populated section of Canada.
Winnipeg's more like Alabama.
I can't. I don't think Winnipeg is like Alabama.
I'm just going off what Bill Burr said. I am paraphrasing what Bill Burr said.
I've never been there, but I do believe the UN went to Alabama and said it was like a third world country. So like. There goes all our Alabama listeners. Let's change topics quick. Next up, we also signed somebody. Yay, good news. Brian Borders got signed here at the veteran corner. And guys, this is a story that we have to tell you guys. That'll take probably 20 minutes just to tell you how long of a career he's had and what teams he's played on here. So let me give you the rundown on this. 29 years old, 6 foot even, 189 pounds, originally an undrafted rookie free agent out of Duke in 2017. So as Sneaky comes in there. Sneaky, what's up?
He's so sneaky. What's up, Sneaky?
If you guys, for those of y'all, especially on YouTube, makes it very easy because that's where he happened to comment on. You see that little logo in the bottom left-hand corner. Go to that man's page and hit the subscribe. Very good Giants content creator.
Listening.
I pop onto his program all the time. Ironically enough, usually when I'm done editing ours, it's like, okay, let me just pop in real quick. But yeah, it's a really good show. He gets a lot of good guests actually. Because of that, man, I got to talk to Tiki Barber. So Just saying. He's got some connections there. So go ahead and like and subscribe to him as well, man. All right. Anyway. Career-wise, 32 games. 6 starts, 42 tackles, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, 1 QB hit, 7 passes deflected. Now, keep in mind, he's 29 years old. He's been in the league since 2017. What does that tell you? He hasn't played a lot in the league, guys.
He's a backup.
This is, you know what it is. Camp body.
Pretty much.
That's what it is. It's that time here. So his best season was in 2020 with the Titans, who was on the staff of the Titans at the time. Our new defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. 5 starts that year, 27 tackles, 5 passes deflected, interception. So most of his stats he's had for his career. 411 of his 526 defensive snaps, guys. That's where he's at that 1 year. 80% basically of his entire NFL career in that 1 year. He has spent time with 13 teams now that he's been signed by the Giants. 13! Guys, that's more than a third of the league. Let's run it down. I got 2 pages of notes here. That was all I wanted to take here, guys. Fair warning. So he starts off being signed as an undrafted rookie free agent with the Raiders, where he spent some time on the practice squad. The Bills then signed him off the Raiders practice squad, but he was cut the following September when he couldn't make the final 53. He was later signed to the Texans practice squad, who released him less than a month later. He's then signed to the Jaguars practice squad in October 2018, promoted to the active roster in December. In December of 19, he's then released, and they re-signed him to the practice squad, only to have him plucked by Washington weeks later. Washington then cuts him in March of 2020. The Steelers signed him in April, but then cut him in August of 2020. The Dolphins then claimed him off of waivers, only to cut him when he didn't make the final roster in September. He's then signed weeks later by the Titans practice squad, where he went back and forth between the practice squad and active roster until December of 21. That is when the Cardinals signed him to their active roster, only to waive him a month later, and then sign him back a week after that, and then yet cut him again in August of 22. Chicago then signed him to their practice squad in November, then put him on their active roster in December, but he wasn't re-signed for 23. Instead, he signed with the Falcons of June of 23, and then cut in August. The Patriots then signed him to their practice squad, and he spent the year there. Now he's a Giant. Whew! I try to go fast for you guys.
Plus, you need a glass of water.
That's a lot we just went through, guys. That's a lot we just went. 13 teams. Now, there are people who may say, why would a guy who's played for 13 teams want to continue this career? Well, 12, I guess. Now is this 13. You played at a time 12 teams.
Yeah.
Here's why, guys. This man has earned $2.67 million in his career, guys. This is why I keep telling you guys. People are like, why do people keep playing football? Because you tell me where, and I don't care what career you're in. At 29 years old, you've already earned almost $3 million. There's not many places that give you that kind of opportunity, guys. Only in American football. I mean, that's just the fun of it. I mean, you enjoy playing the game? Great, keep playing it, because even if you are a guy who's a borderline player, you're going to make some money in the process. Plus, once you've earned, I think, 10 years is when you really start hitting all the, like, I remember who it was now. It was a guy, Connor Barwin, I think it was who it was on a show. I saw him talking about it. He was 10 years in the league when he retired, and that got him up to $70,000 a year he gets in pension.
Oh.
Plus what he made as a player. So, yeah, guys.
Plus,
this is why guys keep on playing, because they make some money. So, and again, he's a borderline NFL player, guys. I don't expect much of him. I think they brought him in because he's got some familiarity with Bowen. They want an extra body. You know, to see what kind of corresponding move happens with that, because again, Theo Johnson comes off the pup. They cut Nathan Rourke. I haven't heard a corresponding move here. So I'd expect to probably hear another move here soon. Whenever I guess somebody comes off the pup at that point, must have had the spot. But yeah, don't expect much, guys. Don't expect much. This is a guy that if he makes the roster, I'll be shocked, to be very frank with you. I'm not trying to be mean, not trying to put the guy down before he even puts the uniform on. Just trying to be realistic with what his numbers and his career says he is. He's a borderline guy. And if he makes the roster, he's got some experience in Shane Bowen's, defense. But he's probably to be more the veteran guy that comes in and helps with the secondary learning, the system and the process. Probably sits in the practice spot potentially. And if you need him because of an injury, you got a guy who knows the system. There's worse things to have than that. There are worse things to have than that. So, all right, let's get into next practice, which was just yesterday. We're starting to catch up to modern times here. Practice report from yesterday, the 28th, Sunday. It's Sunday football.
Oh, yeah.
Again, based on observations from John Schmeelk of Giants.com there. I don't want to take credit for somebody else's work there. After much of the camp really has been based on red zone drills so far, this practice was highlighting the Giants going much deeper than usual, even for the Giants. I remember after this practice, the Twitter was all abuzz because, and I still not calling it X, I don't care. Twitter was all abuzz because people are going crazy about how deep the balls were going, like nonstop at that point. Like, they were throwing bombs left and right here. It was insanity. So, good to see because the defense is going to have to guard against that at some point. Let's be very frank. Like, if you just play your offense, the defense will get confused in the regular season when they play somebody else's offense.
Correct.
The other thing is that at some point we might have to throw some bombs ourselves, guys. If we're down or we're going against a heavy, offense ourselves at that point, like, things will happen that we're going to have to score some points potentially. So, it's good to see them doing it. I want to see them trying all kinds of things and see what best works with it because year to year, each team is different, guys. I know this has been strategically a running team that happens to pass the ball occasionally, basically. Let's be honest, that's what we've been. Saquon's gone, guys. Saquon's gone. And if you think we have a Saquon on this roster now, you're kidding yourself. Devin Singletary is the closest, but he's not Saquon.
No.
And I think it's a good thing that the Giants are recognizing that they have to change things up, try some different things with the passing game and see what works, because you're going to have to create offense. You can't count on a workhorse back anymore. And you have no clue what you got a lot of your running back room because a lot of them are rookies. Or a guy who played barely at all last year. So, Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock, Darian Beavers, you don't hear that name very often anymore, but Darian Beavers, Cordell Flott all had great plays to prevent a completion each. Rookie Drew Phillips knocked down a pass and nearly had what would have been a pick six there if he was able to hold on to the ball there. Darnay Holmes and Trey Herndon also had pass deflections. Rakeem Nunez-Roches had some nice run stops. And guys, this is a guy we need to count on. So I hope to hear good news of him on every single practice because let's be honest, if we don't have him running at full speed, ready to go, being the old Nacho, not the Nacho of last year, the old Nacho he was with the Bucks for several years, even with the latter end of his time with the Chiefs, like that's the guy we need because Sexy Dexy can't do it himself, guys. He cannot do it himself. So good to hear some positive news there. Azeez Ojulari also had a nice showing there on the day as well, which would have had a sack if it was a live game. And you hear something positive about him every single practice right now, guys. Every single practice. And I'm loving that. I know people are all worried having to fit all three on the field at the same time. That's a great goddamn problem.
100%.
Yes, seriously. That's like going to a buffet with great options. Like, how am I to eat all this food? I don't know. I'll figure it the hell out. Listen, if I have to pop
some in my belly.
Yeah, if I got to pop some Pepto after this meal, I'm going to figure a goddamn way to do this. Like, great problem to have. Kayvon Thibodeaux, Brian Phillips, Brian Phillips. He's not from the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys weren't there. Brian Burns, Jordan Phillips, Timon Fox, Ovi Ogofogu. I always mispronounce that name potentially. Matthew Adams and Benton Whitley each provided pressure on the day. Daniel Jones did have a very rough start to the day. It should be pointed out. Like a lot of people left that practice not feeling so good about DJ. And rightfully so from some of the videos I saw. He was missing people that were wide open, wasn't quite getting the ball down the field like it needed to be, but did look better towards the end, including a big throw to both Nabers and to Hyatt. I really think that some people have to figure this part of it out, and I feel like people aren't yet. This is a guy 8 months removed from ACL surgery, guys. I understand that people that don't play football don't understand this. You throw with your legs. And I know that makes no sense whatsoever to some people.
It makes 100%.
You throw with your legs. You plant your feet and you chuck the ball.
Starts.
Your arm is not as important as you think it is. It is a good part of it, 100%. But your lower body is just as important. And when you're coming off a major issue like that, where you're having trouble planting your feet just a couple months ago, and you're trying to chuck a ball 40 yards down the field, guys, it's not as easy as people think. Now, am I sitting there saying, let's give DJ a pass for the whole season? No. That'd be insanity. What I am saying, though, is give him a pass right now when he's first getting onto the field. See what it looks like in a few weeks as he kind of gets the muscles back up and going again at that point.
And that's also the whole point of these camps. This is the whole point of training camp, like to make sure he's good to go.
Yeah. And like I said, guys, we're not the DJ haters. We're not the DJ lovers. We're the DJ realists. Give him some time. That takes time to come back from. You don't come right back from an ACL surgery and start throwing the ball 40 yards down the field like it's nothing.
No.
And as much as people that don't like DJ would hate to admit this, he threw a nice deep ball. Before the surgery, he threw a very nice deep ball. He never had time to throw with that offensive line.
No.
But he threw a nice deep ball. So give him a chance to come back from the injury fully. Let's see what it looks like then before we start making any kind of judgment based on that. Drew Lock also had some nice throws, including one's to wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie and tight end Tyree Jackson as well. So good day overall. Defense definitely looked a little better than the offense did, but a lot of that was honestly because of missed throws. But again, coming back from an injury, we're going to give him a little bit of time off before we get too hard on this kid. Give him a little bit. That's all I'm asking.
Smidge.
Speaking of Daniel Jones, before we go to the next section, we got to tell you about the contest.
Enter to win a Daniel Jones signed jersey. Simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@2giantgoofballs, and email a screenshot to 2giantgoofballs@mail.com to enter. Only one submission allowed per subscriber. Monthly subscribers at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs will get an additional 2 entries. Contest ends when the channel reaches 1,000 subscribers. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. This contest is not affiliated with the NFL, New York Giants, Daniel Jones, or any other person or company besides the 2 Giant Goofball podcast. Good luck to everyone.
All righty, guys. And if you haven't already, guys, send in your submission if you've already subscribed. Because it doesn't matter if you subscribed 6 months ago, you're subscribing the first time right now. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, you are eligible for an entry. So let's get right into it with today's practice, because today's practice is the fun one. Today's practice, the 29th, Monday. We got the fun one here, guys. And that's because the pads came on. We're playing real football now. Let's go. Let's go to America. America.
Football.
I thought that'd be a spectacular karaoke song.
Don't want to get demonetized, so we're going to say America football.
Oh, we get curse. We just can't go too crazy. I tell you, I swear YouTube does, because when we used to go crazy on cursing, all of a sudden you see the numbers are
yeah,
they're cursing too much. Anyway,
you guys got 1,000 people live, but you just said that bomb shit sometimes. Oops.
Oh yeah, it was a little crazy. But yeah, so again, first day of padded practice here today. Matthew Adams actually showed up so excited for the first day of pads. He showed up at the team meeting ready to go in full gear. I love that. I love that. Sign me up for that. Before the padded session, or at least have team activities, the groups did meet and go over how to stay safe during full contact with the pads. Always good, because these guys, even though they've been doing it their whole life, basically, sometimes we learn new things during the years to that point of how to do better safety. Plus, they haven't had full contact now in 7 months. These guys, they haven't played since the end of the season there at that point. So it's always good to have a little refresher there. The big fun part of the session here was the one-on-one battles they had between the offensive and defensive lines there. And this was the practice I would have loved to be at for that. Like, I love watching that kind of stuff. Like, mano y mano. Let's just go see what happens there at that point there. The offensive line, though, held their own pretty well in the drills, which tends to favor the defense. So, always good to see that. I should say John Michael Schmeltz. We were talking about John Schmeltz before. John Michael Schmitz was held out due to his shoulder. Is he still, they're still trying to baby him back at that point from that shoulder injury last year. Dexter Lawrence also didn't participate because of an illness. So I will say, when we say the offensive line looked good, I feel like we have to give her some of an asterisk, because you're taking out the best nose tackle in all of football. Like JMS is still a miss to the offense, don't get me wrong, but he's not Dexter Lawrence. So
no, not many people are.
Yeah. The real highlight, though, was, as usual, Brian Burns versus Andrew Thomas. And like I said, that's a fun thing. Every time the Giants or anybody else posts a video of those two going out of practice, I am watching it. I cannot help myself. It is fun to watch. It is enjoyable. It is something that I would love to see on a regular basis myself in person, because I love the iron sharpens iron kind of mentality, and I think that's what we got going on right now. I really do. I think that's exactly what is going on, and it's great to watch there. Another good news on there: Aaron Stinney looked really good. He won all 3 battles he had, and like I said, looked very good doing so. It looked impressive. It wasn't like close calls. Like, he just owned it. And guys, if Jermain Eluemunor goes over to right tackle, as we expect, between the health issues and the ability issues with Evan Neal, I hate to word it that way. I think he's been injured his whole career so far, so it's kind of like, I don't want to give up on the kid fully, but it's like Jermain Eluemunor has looked good at right tackle for the last couple of years for the Raiders. So if he goes there, listen, Stinney's probably going to be the guy to step up at left guard the way things are going. He's been the guy that's been there, at left guard so far in training camp there. So it's good to see him doing well. Elijah Baby Bison Chapman also won a few of his battles as well. Joshua Miles won twice, including one against Brian Burns, which is always nice to see. When you're a guy who's like might not even make the roster is beating your $30 million, edge rusher, that's a good thing for your offensive line depth there. Not so good for your $30 million pass rusher, but listen, people are not going to win every single one. So, part of it you go, yeah, he looked good, but part of it you go, that was one play. I guarantee you redo that 10 times, and all of a sudden the outcome may be different. Yeah.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut. So
exactly. Jordan Riley also won a battle really quickly with a nice inside swim move as well. So, like I said, a fun thing to watch always. Giants also ran 2-on-2s and 3-on-3s with wide receiver drills there, 1-on-1s also with the running backs and tight ends versus linebacker drills. Daniel Jones had a very impressive throw to Isaiah Hodgins. Rookies Dante Turbo Miller. There he is again. Go for it, Rob.
Yeah, it's turbo time.
And Tyrone Tracy Jr. each had big gains. Dane Belton had a couple of interceptions during that as well. Azeez Ojulari once again showing up, had some nice pressures. Trey Herndon had a nice pass breakup from the slot position there. David Long had a pair of pass deflections, including one that turned into a Javarius Owens interception. Do we have a Javarius Owens sighting? This is the first time I've heard of it in any of these reports, which I got to say scares the bejesus out of me. Again, 7th round pick, not the end of the world, but the fact that we're not even hearing his name means he's kind of not doing much at all. Except for a ball that happened to land in his hands because somebody else made a play. Looks
yay.
Rookie corner Andrew Phillips also had a few nice plays in the run game there. Always good to see. I love when corners run up and help out with the running game at that point. That's just something I've always loved watching at that point. Like, I always hate when the guys that shy away from it. And you guys remember at the end of the season, that was the big issue the Giants had with Dory Jackson, is he was kind of protecting himself and not playing and helping the run at that point. So, the guy who's basically, for all intents and purposes, replacing him doesn't have that mentality. So, Deonte Johnson, a nice run stop and a nice blitz that would have been a sack. One of the team periods, that the offense had basically pinned them at their 1 yard line and to see what the Giants would do. So they're still starting with 99 yards to go. And they managed to run the ball well by all accounts. They got passes out quickly, avoided any negative yard plays. And listen, when you start on the 1 yard line, your job, and I hate to say it this way, let me put it this way, your job is always to get a touchdown. Let me put that out there. I'm not Jason Garrett here. I'm not happy with field goals. Your job is to get a touchdown. But when you're starting at the 1 yard line, first job is to get out of that position. And not every play is going to end up with a touchdown. So if you just get out of a bad position where you're not going to give the ball back at midfield, that's a win. I know nobody wants to hear that, but that's a win.
It really is.
So now the Giants will be back in pads again tomorrow, guys. So Dan Duggan said the Giants are looking to make camp different from the country club style it was last year. I loved seeing that. That's probably my favorite thing I saw all weekend long here, guys, because we talked about it in the show. The Giants looked weak as hell to start the season. We got our asses handed to us by the Cowboys. Let's be very frank about that. There's no way to sugarcoat this. The Cowboys whooped our butts.
Cardinals whooped our butts.
Yeah.
Half of a game.
But on top of that, when you had joint practices, the Lions made us look bad too.
Yep.
So, this is something that the Giants saw, and I'm glad they did because, listen, we saw it. We weren't even there. So the fact that they saw it means I'm glad that they noticed the mistake they made last year and they're going to change it. Listen, this is a rookie GM and a rookie head coach. And they got rid of the guy that was supposed to be the mentor because, with Joe Judge, because it didn't work. And they let, Brian Daboll bring his own staff in. But none of these guys were head coaches before. He doesn't have that on his staff. Whereas Joe Judge had a staff of people that had head coach, whether college or, NFL, had head coaching experience. This is not that kind of coaching staff. So there's going to be some bumps in the road during the process. So I'm glad they recognize the problem and they're trying to fix it. That's the key. So, all righty. We got a little bit of Giants news here to go over with you guys here before we call it a night here. So let's get into all of it here. So first off, Darius Slayton has been really a subject of trade talks for quite a while now because he's on an expiring deal. He's a good talent. He's still young. And we have receivers, let's be honest. So there are trade suitors definitely for Darius Slayton. And he gave a good quote and basically said as much. So he said, people wanted to trade for me. People don't trade for bad players or people don't trade for players who haven't played good ball in this league. So it's not like I couldn't have been elsewhere. I just chose to be here. At the end of the day, that means something. I know who I am. I know what I've done. I know the caliber of player that I am. And hopefully I get a chance to show that this year. I'm 6 years in. And I've only been here for 6 years. So there's a wealth of game and practice data analytics on me as a Giant versus Malik's been here all of a couple months. Jalen's been here 1 season. Wandale's been here really technically 1 season because he got hurt. Now, he had me until the end.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, I think people forget sometimes that you say stupid things sometimes when you shouldn't. And I think that's what falls into that category of saying stupid things. But he's not wrong in everything he said leading up to that. Let me put it that way. He's a good player. He's a high caliber player. He's a guy who is respected in this league because he played decent here for 6 years with a cruddy team that's had cruddy QB play for most of it. Let's be honest. So, if not all of it, calling it like it is. There's respect for that. And I don't think he meant the insult that it may come off of for that last part. I really don't think he meant it as an insult. I think he just meant hey, I've been here for a while. They know what they are. They have some newer guys here, obviously, but they don't necessarily know what they are yet, whereas they know what I am. I think that's what he meant it more as. Because, people are talking as if Malik Nabers is, the second coming of OBJ. He hasn't even caught an NFL pass yet. Jalin Hyatt didn't do much last year. Wan'Dale Robinson hasn't shown he can be fully healthy a full season and be the productive player I think he can be. There's a lot of question marks on what is definitely a much more improved wide receiver group. But there's still a lot of question marks, guys. So he's not wrong. I like the fact that he wants to be here. I got to be honest. If I'm him, I don't want to be here. Because we talked about it before the show. If you're the New York Giants, who do you want to succeed as your deep threat wide receiver? Darius Slayton or Jalin Hyatt?
Hyatt. He's cheaper and he's the guy you drafted.
Exactly. So, I give him credit for wanting to stay here because, listen, he could have left a couple times. He could have left in free agency a couple years ago. He could have demanded a trade when Brian Dable first got here and refused to play in the first couple of games. Like, there's a lot of times Slayton could have been the malcontent of the locker room, so to speak. And he's never done that. He's been nothing but a true professional. He has been the biggest backer of Daniel Jones anytime someone publicly knocks him and goes after him. I got a lot of respect for Slayton and what he's done because people forget sometimes what he does. 700 yards a season is nothing to sniff at. And that's what he does consistently with a horrible offense. That deserves respect. That does deserve respect. So, all right, let me get off my soapbox that I have here for Darius Slayton. We should
listen to Deb too.
Yeah, I know. I was already on it. We're paying the bills, guys.
Enjoying the show. Looking for more goofball action? Consider a membership at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Memberships start at just $5 and give you additional goofball access. One-time support payments also available starting at just $3. buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs.
All righty, guys. We have some more Giants news. There's already somebody who also doesn't seem to want to leave. Isn't it nice to have the team that nobody wants to leave? And it's Tommy DeVito basically saying, don't risk losing me. He's saying, don't forget about me. Forget about
me.
Don't you forget about me.
And pass the partial bonjour.
Here's the exact quote he gave to the New York Post. He said, I'm going to put them in a situation to make a decision. It's going to be up to them. I'm going to go out and do my job with the highest ability. It's not in my hands, this decision. I am very aware of how they operate. That's up to them to make that decision, make that gamble. I'm going to continue to play. We'll see how everything unfolds. If they decide to cut me and I get scooped up, I don't get to make that decision to say afterwards, if someone grabs me, no, I want to stay here. It's everything for the front office. He said that to the New York Post, and I heard a lot of people talking like he's being some prima donna. I didn't take that from that. Did you, Rob?
No, he's just being an Italian.
Italian. Not everything is about the fact this man's Italian. Okay. But it's like I feel like the Giants have taken in the last couple of years. They've had two quarterbacks on the roster. Even going back before Dable, they've consistently had two quarterbacks on the roster. And damn well just as well as I do. If they keep two on the roster this year, guys, it's Daniel Jones and Drew Lock.
100%.
So what I took that as is him saying, I know the Giants usually only take two quarterbacks and put them on the roster. I know I'd be number 3 in the depth chart right now. I'm going to do everything I can to go ahead and make this a difficult decision. But if they let me go and they try to put me in the practice squad and somebody offers me a spot on the active roster, I'm going to take it because, of course, I have to.
Yeah, no hard feelings, but it's time for me to make my money.
I have no problem with that statement whatsoever. Yep. Not a single one. And people go, oh, he had his 15 minutes of fame and now he's got a big head. No, that's not a big head scenario, guys.
No, that's what any other third-string quarterback would do. The opportunity to be a second-string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, put it in like other terms. Like, let's say you were like a department head for a company and they all of a sudden say, you know what, we have too many departments. We're going to put you down a peg. And somebody else offers you a job at the rival company to be a department head. You're going to take that job.
Yeah, or you've been trying to get that department head job at Home Depot, and you just can't get it for whatever reason. And you stepped up when the department head was, on vacation for a month and whatever happened, and they had to go and leave an absence. You stepped up, and guess what? You showed that you had the ability where you could do that job, and you never got that promotion. And then Lowe's calls you up to do that job for more money. Any one of you guys out there would take that job.
Exactly. Then you can finally be the lead of the lead tech of 2x4s.
All the lumber. You'd be the hardest working wood.
The master of woodsman.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I don't blame the guy. I don't think anything was that wrong in that at all. So people just overreact. So let's get into a little bit of happy stuff here, because there was a man who we gave $30 million to this offseason. We talked about him before, Mr. Brian Burns. And he was singing the praises of another guy we talked about earlier, in Azeez Ojulari. And he deserves it. Again, every single practice report you hear from this training camp, Azeez Ojulari, Azeez Ojulari, Azeez Ojulari. And I feel like people are talking about the fact that he's trade bait, basically. Why would you do that? Kayvon Thibodeaux had a history in college of getting injured. He got injured his rookie year. You have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeaux, Azeez Ojulari, and not much after that, guys.
Depth.
So, like, you want to take the risk of one of these guys getting hurt and we have just poop behind them? No, I want a good guy behind him. And Azeez Ojulari is a good player still. He just has trouble staying healthy.
I would say when he stays healthy, and every time that he's healthy, he does a fantastic job. He does a great job. Let's give that.
The first years he did a fantastic job. Last year he didn't look that great, but the weird thing is, you know what happened when he came back? Kayvon looked better.
Correct.
That's the weird part. Kayvon played a lot better once Azeez Ojulari came back. So, and that's why people should be excited about Kayvon and Brian Burns, because no offense to Ojulari, but Brian Burns is definitely a better player,
Well, yeah, it seems like Thibodeau's the guy that steps up to the challenge next to him. He's got to look good.
Yeah.
So
anyway, here's the comments Brian Burns said. We didn't even get to that part here. He's a great pass rusher. He's very natural. He has natural ability. It comes very, very natural to him. So I think he's saying natural. Just natural.
He really likes the natural of being out of nature with this.
I'm just saying, when he gets a jar of peanut butter, it's the natural peanut butter.
You guys, got mix it up a little bit naturally with the risk curve.
Anyway, he continued on. He said, I think he's very gifted. Just his build alone. He has extremely long arms and natural leverage. Natural. So that makes him a premium pass rusher as far as his build. He's been doing great so far. I expect big things from
natural things. Oh.
Natural.
Yeah, natural things.
It's funny when I actually put the quote in the notes and I read it, I didn't even realize how many times it said natural in that. So he's literally said 4 or 5 times in that 2 sentences
at least.
The word natural. Oh my God. That's a little extreme. But yeah, like I said, everything he said is right, guys. And Azeez Ojulari is one of those guys that, to be very frank, we're probably going to have him this year, and he'll probably be priced out of our market for next year. But enjoy having one more year of him. And who knows? Maybe something crazy happens and he takes like a $5 million a year to be a third pass rusher or something. I don't know. Listen, I just think he's better than
I've seen people crazier things. But I mean, the problem is, the best ability is availability, and due to his injury history, like, he's not always available to play. But if you look at the factor that you got, Burns, Thibodeaux, like, you got some people around him where he doesn't have to play every snap. It doesn't have to, like, step up every single time. You could sit him down, like, he looks a little tired or this, that. Like, you could forego, like, as much of injury that he possibly could have, and he might be able to play more snaps this year and be that much better through the whole year.
Yes. So let's get into another guy that has injury issues left and right. And that's the burger flipper himself.
I was going to say mostly right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's Evan Neal. So Evan Neal, maybe not ready for the start of the season, according to Brian Dable. So Ryan Dunleavy, the beat writer of the Giants there, said on Twitter /X. I wish they'd just say I wish they just say Twitter again. It said Brian Dable said Evan Neal remains day to day, but wouldn't commit to him definitely being ready by week 1. And that's odd to me. Like that's a little dubious, you might say. Dubious, even.
It's a good word.
Like, there's a couple ways to read that. So first off, he said it on Sunday. If anybody's asking for time frame of when that was said, that was Sunday. Is it possible the Giants just literally don't even know when he's going to be available? Like, we don't know, so we're just not going to give you a day because then they're going to try to keep us to it later on if he's not ready in that time frame?
Could be.
Or is it possible they're just trying to add any pressure onto him in case he has a setback?
I mean, I would definitely read it into it a little bit that way.
Yeah, like
more than the incompetence of the Giants staff of not knowing when he's going to be back, but more of, do we put pressure on Evan Neal? Will that put too much pressure and cause him not to be able to come back as fast?
Yeah, I feel like,
or hurt himself again trying to come back.
I feel like they're being careful because, again, we talked about there was rumors, and I've heard both. I'm not going to say either way because I haven't seen a definite report from the Giants that they thought he was a sprained ankle and it turned to be a fracture later on. So they might have made a mistake during that there. So maybe they're just being extra cautious because they're afraid of lawsuits. Who knows? Like,
could be.
I mean, if you're going to think of one Giants player who would sue the Giants, it might be Evan Neal right now, the way he's acting with the burger flipping comments and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's a little sensitive. He's a little sensitive. Listen, in all fairness, though, if I was a football player and you botched it up and you ruined my career, I might be a little pissed off and sue you too. We talked about what's the Giant that we had drafted as a running back a couple of years ago that won $2 million when he sued the hospital. I can't remember his name.
Oh, that was more than a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
It was like right around the time of David Wilson, like around that time, but it wasn't David Wilson for the record.
Yeah.
But it was a different player. But yeah, he won $2 million, and the doctor like committed suicide, and everything. So yeah, all kinds of craziness there. Anyway, we'll have to find out what happened. But it's interesting because people are kind of acting like, okay, Eluemunor is taking over the spot for right now. We'll see what happens. But no, Eluemunor might be there permanently the way this is going right now. Because imagine if Evan Neal is not ready and Eluemunor is good week 1 or week 2, whatever. Are you really going to slip Evan Neal back in there week 3? Or
that's week 4? Where I was going to say, like, either you're not confident he's going to start. Maybe he's okay for week 1. Maybe he's not. But if you put Eluemunor in there and he lights it up at right tackle, can you justify putting Evan Neal back in week 2 or week 3? You have to let that pony ride for a little bit.
Yeah,
that pony might become a unicorn and ride for the rest of the year.
Listen, and I think maybe sometimes the best thing might be to do is to give Evan Neal the chance to fully heal because he hasn't been fully healthy basically his entire time as a Giant. And whatever it ends up being, whether it's mid-season, beginning of the season, let him get into the bench role, let him sit tight, let him earn a spot back on the starting lineup by beating somebody else out that has one currently, and let it play out that way because that's the way it should play at this point.
Yes, and like not only is it obviously better because the best person for the job, but if Evan Neal is really that guy where he should be that good,
yeah.
1, he should be able to do that with ease, and 2, it's also going to rebuild his confidence to go back into that position and play in the NFL at a very tough position.
Yes, 100%. So, all right, we got one little bit of news here for you guys still, and that's another article by Alex Ballantyne of the Bleacher Report, who suggested the Giants should trade for Harrison Bryant. I know it says the Browns there in the picture there by the for those who watched the video, but he's actually been signed this offseason by the Raiders. Now, this was before they got a certain rookie tight end from Georgia. So, they've gotten back-to-back really good tight ends in the draft here. So, yeah, you kind of look at the guy who was kind of thought as to be number 2, and now he's number 3. You got a guy who's basically better than where he's at. And that's a great problem to have if you're the Raiders. Don't get me wrong. But the Raiders have one of the worst rosters in the entire league. Let's be honest with that.
The best tight end spots.
Yeah. But they got Brock Bowers, and they got Michael Mayer last year. And now they have Harrison Bryant they signed in the offseason. So, there's a couple guys out there now. So this is what they suggested. They suggested the Giants receive Harrison Bryant and a 7th-round pick. The Raiders receive a 6th-round pick. First off, I don't know about you, but if I'm the Raiders, I'm like, why would I make this move?
Yeah,
Unless Bryant wanted to leave. Unless Bryant goes up to the front office and says, hey, excuse me, Mr. Guy looks like a Chucky doll. Would you like to go ahead and trade me because I don't really want to be here anymore? I got to make fun of Mark Davis' haircut every chance I get.
Yeah.
So this is what Alec Ballantyne said. He said, the last time the Giants traded for a Raiders tight end, it didn't work out so well. Darren Waller only ended up playing 12 games last season and averaged 10.6 yards per reception and retired this offseason. The Giants drafted Theo Johnson instead of Daniel Bellinger in their roster, but it might be worth going to the Raiders to add another option. This time, the Giants would be much more low stakes. The Raiders signed Harrison Bryant to a 1-year, $3.3 million contract in March, but couldn't have factored in drafting Brock Bowers at the time. Drafting the rookie phenom out of Georgia probably puts Bryant 3rd in the tight end pecking order right away. Meanwhile, the Giants have might have pursued a free agent tight end a little harder if Waller had announced his retirement before June. Here, both clubs get a chance for a redo. The former Mackey Award winner could help out the Giants until Johnson is ready to play. Well, guess what, guys? Johnson is ready to play already. And again, I just don't see. I don't see what this helps anybody in any shape, or form. Like the Giants have plenty of options at tight end, guys.
Yeah, this is a silly report because let's think about it. Like, just on our point, you got 2 guys on a cheap contract. So why are we going to trade away draft picks to get a 3rd person in that in that setup? Just right then and there. Like, why? 2.
Yeah.
Why did the Raiders pick this guy up? Like, is there an injury that we don't know about over there in Vegas? Is there there's a lingering thing that's going on?
They picked him up before they realized Brock Bowers.
Okay.
They picked him up before they got Brock Bowers. So that was just them getting a number 2 tight end, not realizing their number 1 was about to become number 2 because they're about to get one of the best tight end draft prospects to come out in the last 10 years. But to me, the Giants have Theo Johnson now healthy. We got Daniel Bellinger. We got Jack Stahl. We got Chris Manners. We got Lawrence Cager. It's not like we're hurting for options. Now, if you were to tell me, oh, we're going to give you, Michael Mayer because we're giving up on him because we got Brock Bowers.
That's a different. Yes, that was my next statement.
But I'm not taking, and to make me very clear, I don't think you're getting that for giving up a 6th and getting back a 7th.
No.
That's not going to be the scenario. But what I'm just saying is, like, I understand if you have the chance to go get a really good player, especially a really good young player, making that move. But to get a guy who's been averaging 200 yards a season at that point and is more of a blocking tight end, I don't really see much of a benefit for the Giants. We already have average tight ends on our roster.
Yeah.
Like we don't need them. We don't need it, guys. So, yeah. All righty, guys. So that's going to call it a night for us. So we'll be back again for you guys Wednesday with more Giants news and training up there because that's what season we're in, guys. Keep in mind, though, the closer we get, the further we fall. No, I'm kidding. We're going to get to preseason football. That was a country song, I want to say. I forget who did that one. If anybody knows, to put in the comments. Or I can just Google it real quick. But we're getting closer and closer to preseason, so it's coming. It's going to annoy me now until I know who did it. Oh, it was Alabama. It was Alabama. That's who did it. Alabama did that song. But anyway, so keep up to date with that because we're going to be getting into some of that stuff here starting pretty soon there. I think we're getting what? Is it one more week to go? That's it, I think. I'm pretty sure next week. Yeah, I think the end of next week there is we got the first game here, guys. So yeah, it's getting closer and closer and closer. So keep up to date with everything going on. We got new players being added. We got all kinds of fun stuff here going on here. So as always, we are live every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook. We were on Twitter/X. We're not currently. We may go back on. We're debating if it's worth spending the money. And, of course, Twitch and Rob's favorite.
Sure, it's like garbage.
Yes, my LinkedIn profile. And, of course, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms as well. That is, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the big ones there. No, not the place where the Avatar people live, other Pandora. So if you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share button. Do me a favor, tell a friend. That's the biggest way we get shared out there is people letting people know about the show when they like it. So appreciate you guys
podcast
as always there, guys. And as always, Giant fans.
Go
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.